Om Namo Siddhaya. Om Namo Ayuriyana. Om Namo Uvachayana. Om Namo Loke Sappana. Eto Panjana Bhutano Sarvatapanasano Mantrana Tasvesi Padmam Avarimandya Padmam Avarimandya.
चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए, चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए, देव तुम्हारा पुण्य नाम मेरे मन में रम जाए। चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए, चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए। ओम 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 दुर्गाता अरहं 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 राधा। ओम ह्रीं श्रीं जय, ओम ह्रीं श्रीं जय, विजय ध्वजा लहराए। चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए, चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए। ओम जय विष्णु विष्णु जय, ओम ह्रीं श्रीं ह्रीं श्रीं ह्रीं श्रीं साम्य सिंधु गहराए। चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए, चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए। मिटे विषमता कीर्तन की, अनवर की चिंतन की, पद 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 मिले सफलता, तन्मयता चिंतन की। नाम मंत्र हर विषय, साम्य सिंधु गहराए। चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए, चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए। आत्मा भिन्न शरीर भिन्न है, तुमने मंत्र पढ़ाया। बलिदाए परमात्मा ओम राम ह्रीं रोम ह्रैं रोम रम ब्रह्म अंतरमल धुल जाए चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए देव तुम्हारा में रम जाए चैत्य पुरुष जग जाए
Today we have gathered to honor and celebrate the spiritual life of Kishore Kaka. We are also here to remember his contributions to the Jain community of Orlando. It is not an exaggeration to say that he was one of the pillars of the Jain Viswabharati Orlando community. And very few people probably know that 20 years back, started this center, Kishore Kaka was very instrumental in getting the youth involved into the JVV center activities. Some of those youth became lifelong members of the JVV. You see one of them standing here today. So I am always grateful to him for that. Okay, without further ado, I would like to call upon Kishore Kaka's family to say a few words.
Yes.
I was thinking about what I wanted to say today. Very difficult to summarize in a few minutes. You know, a life written for 8 decades plus. But I wanted to pare down and mention a couple of things that would give you a sense of who my dad was, hopefully. But more importantly, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody that was in his life. Everybody that's gathered here today was, you know, family to him, instrumental in his life. You know, from the bottom of our heart, thank you for the interaction with him and the support for him when he got ill, and just making his life what it was over the last several decades that he and our family have been here in Orlando. Got a phone call a few days ago after Dad had passed
from a very good friend of mine who we grew up in Orlando together back in the 70s and 80s. And he said to me, please let me know when the memorial is going to be. I want to try to be there if I can, and even if not, I want to make sure that I can watch it. Your dad was a gentleman in the truest sense of the word. But, you know, that sounds right. He was a gentleman. Then over the last couple of days, I actually got two more phone calls from very close friends. And it was striking to me because they used the same word. They said he was a gentleman. They kind of emphasized that he was a gentleman. That's a tribute. Not everybody could maybe achieve that. So that's something I should strive to be my actions, to be thought of as a gentleman. But really, Dad tried, I think, to as much as he could live his life, try to make the best of whatever situation he was faced with. And I think he was a role model to all of us in that way. Dad was born in 1940. In 1966, he came to this country to get his master's degree. In 1969, he married my mom, and in 1972, they settled here in Central Florida and made a life for themselves for the next, for him, it was almost 50 years later that he passed away. And over those years, he become a strong part of various communities. There's certainly the Indian community at large. Back in the 70s, it was not so prevalent or so common to see other Indian people. So I think they were among the first to settle in this area. And they certainly, built up an Indian community with pride in those years. And then, of course, over the last 30, 40 years, they've also been instrumental in the Jain community and helping to build it up. And so that was a very important part of his life. Dad, of course, had a professional community that he was part of. He was an engineer, but there were business people and architects and clients who were also part of his life and his professional life. But clearly, as the years went by, it's clear to us that the most important group or most important people in his life are his family, and that's family, immediate family, but certainly also family in India, really family all over the United States, even all over the world. And his kids and grandkids, of course, were the most important of that. When he had a very difficult time, about 16 years ago, when my mom passed away, I think in that case, the Jain community here was a bedrock support, was instrumental in him, being able to survive that difficult time and taking care of himself and eventually thriving and doing well with everything, despite that very difficult situation. So I think as much as we can, we should try to do our best to honor him by living simply, by enjoying everybody who's close to us in life, trying to make the best community that we can. We remember him as a friend, a father, colleague, brother, a cousin, kaka, and a dada. And I want to again thank you all for coming to him and honoring him tonight. Thank you. Hello. Just want to say, just like Ashish did, thanks to everyone for coming today. and for arranging everything here. Jill and Ashish and I set up everything for the funeral tomorrow. That's more for my dad's work colleagues and some of our friends, but here at the JVD, we didn't have to do anything because it's such a strong, it's well-knit community of people that took care of everything for us. JVD was like a second home to my dad. After my mom passed away in 2005, his work, this temple, and then eventually his grandchildren were the three things that he lived for the most. The three things that gave him something to look forward to every day after my mom had passed. As Usher said, he came to the US back in the 60s for his master's degree at University of Cincinnati. After he and my mom married in 1969, he went to work in Chicago for about 8 years too. And when my mom was pregnant with Usher, of course, Ba joined him, my mom's mother, Ba, my grandmother, and was with us for the rest of our life. So the three of us really had three parents for most of our lives. Because he was born in Chicago, growing up, Ashish was a big Chicago fan, Cubs, Bears, Bulls. So he was 10 years older than me. So when I started watching sports, those were the teams I rooted for and I still root for, even though I was born here in Orlando along with Joe. And it was funny because they moved to Florida, as Usher said, in the 72. It was shortly after Disney World opened here. I think it was October of 71. They're about to have their 50th anniversary. And I always joke that Usher's 50th anniversary was this year as well, in April. Over the years, my dad always showed us all the value of hard work. And I feel like I was lucky to have inherited his good memory and sharp mind. Even in his later days, when the cancer was, pretty strong in his body, his mind never went. His mind was always sharp. In fact, whenever he felt okay, the first thing he would ask me about would be his work and his projects. And that would be something that was always on his mind, even when he was sick. He also, of course, loved seeing all the friends from here at the JVD at his home or at our home. And even after he got sick, he would join the Zoom calls when they would be doing ceremonies here at the temple. And for a long time during COVID, he always played cards on Zoom with his friends as well. And about a week, about a week ago, or a week or two ago, when there was a lot of ceremonies going on here, right after it was finished, Shri Kishorebhai and his wife and a couple of the friends came over unexpectedly, but it was nice. My dad wasn't feeling well that day; he wasn't eating, but they came over and for sure had a nice hour or two where they just sat and talked and laughed and joked, and my dad was making everyone laugh the way he always does. After they left, he said that was really nice that they came. That was maybe one of the last times we really spent with friends, just sitting and enjoying like that. And when the friends would come, they would always take his mind off his sickness and make him feel better. There were a couple of times in there when friends came and he even was able to actually play cards, which hadn't been able to do in a long time. That was very nice. I was able to cook for him. I can cook pretty well, and my cousin Smita came a couple of times to visit, showed me how to make some things, and some upma was something that I would never make myself, not something that I particularly like, but she taught me how to make that, and my dad liked it so much. It was one of his favorite meals and one of the few things he still ate, even towards the very end when he was very sick. And of course, Ashish and Joe both came a lot, alternating, and my cousin Yatin from Chicago, my cousin Smita and her husband Buffalo from Chicago came to visit, which was a great help to me because I was the one living with him and staying with him every day. And them coming also, of course, lifted his spirits very much. And Joel, when she was here with me, after he had first got out of the hospital, showed me the medications to give him. And I learned that very well. And then when she and Ashish would come, they would actually ask me what to give him and when, because I was taking care of him all the time. But everyone who came, everyone here was of great help and great support to him. My dad was also one of the toughest people I knew. I'm sure many of you knew that about 3-4 years ago at his office, He always worked too much. He shouldn't have been there late at night, but he got attacked. The mugger took his car, and it was very scary. I know I myself would have been very scared. But as he often did, the first thing my dad thought of was everyone else. He told me that night that the first thing he thought of was that he needed to call our apartment and change the locks because the robber got the keys. So his first thought wasn't even about himself, but of me. Even as sick as he was recently in the hospital, whenever cousins or family or friends would come to visit, of course he would talk about himself, but he would always ask them how they were doing as well. And when he was diagnosed, naturally he was scared, but he also took on the cancer as hard as he could. I think ultimately his age and the medication and everything was just too much for him, but he did fight it very well. And thankfully, me and Joe were right there by his side when he passed away peacefully in his sleep. He used to always say that how your life is, how long you live, was predetermined all the way to the last breath. And even though we didn't know what would happen when it did, in the end, at least it was a peaceful passing that all of us could hope for. So thanks again to everyone for coming today, for all of your help and support and friendship, not just in the past 6 months when he was sick, but over the past many, many years. His family is all over the country, but here in Orlando, this community of friends, family, and even work associates are his extended family as well. So we just want to say thanks again for everything.
Jai Jinendra. I think I'm going to talk to everyone today in Gujarati. કારણ કે જ્યારે દિલની વાત કેવી હોય ત્યારે માતૃભાષા જોઈએ. તમને ખ્યાલ હશે કે જ્યારે છોકરા પર ગુસ્સે થવાનું હોય કે કોકને ગાળો આપવાની હોય તો આપણે આપણી ભાષામાં ગાળો આપીએ, કારણ કે ઇંગ્લિશ ગાળોમાં તો કંઈ જામે નહીં. તો સૌથી પહેલા તો હું જે વસ્તુ આશીષ અને મિહિરે કહી એ જેવીબીના મેમ્બરો માટે કહીશ. તમે લોકોએ જે કામ કર્યું છે આજની વ્યવસ્થા, પણ આજની વ્યવસ્થા પહેલા બી જ્યારે કિશોર માસા માંદા હતા અને જેવી રીતે લોકો ટર્ન લઈને એક જવાબદારીઓ પૂરી કરતા હતા, એ જોઈને ખરેખર એમ થાય કે માસાનું સાચું ફેમિલી તો અહીંયા છે. આજની જે તમે તૈયારી કરી અને સગવડ કરી એ નોર્મલ સર્કમસ્ટન્સીસના અંદર જો ઇન્ડિયામાં હોય તો એ જવાબદારી અમારી હતી, કુટુંબીજનોની. પણ અમે દૂર હતા અને અહીંયા આશીષ, ચીલ અને મીરને કોઈ જ ખોટ ન લાગી કે મારા કોઈ કુટુંબીજનો અહીંયા છે નહીં. અને એનું શ્રેય જે છે એ તમને બધાને જાય છે, જેવીબી મેમ્બરોને. હવે વાત કરીએ આપણે કિશોર માસા. એ મારા વાઈફના માસા થાય એટલે અમે એને માસા જ કહીએ છીએ, એટલે હું કિશોરભાઈ નહીં કહું, કિશોર માસા જ કહીશ. કિશોર માસાની લાઈફની બધી જુદી જુદી વસ્તુઓ અને એનો સ્વભાવ અને એના ગુણો અને એને શું શું કર્યું એ બધું હકીકતના અંદર મારા કરતા તમને બધાને વધારે ખબર છે. મારો એમનો પરિચય સ્મિતા સાથે લગ્ન થયો 41 વર્ષ પહેલા ત્યારથી છે, પણ એ પરિચય જ હતો. જ્યારે તમે લોકો એની સાથે દર અઠવાડિયે 2 કલાક 4 કલાક 6 કલાક આત્મીયતાથી ભેગા થઈ અને જે વસ્તુમાં તમે માનતા હતા એ બધું સાથે કરતા હતા, એટલે એના વિશે વધારે હું નહીં કહું. હું એ વસ્તુ તમને કહેવા માંગુ છું કે જે વસ્તુ કદાચ કોઈને ખબર બી નહીં. કિશોર માસા એટલે બધા એમ કે ઓ સચ અ જેન્ટલમેન, સચ અ કાઇન્ડ હાર્ટેડ પર્સન, કેટલા સોફ્ટ સ્પોકન છે, કેટલા મુલાયમ છે. હવે તમને આજે કહું, આજ કિશોરભાઈ કોલેજમાંથી નીકળ્યા ત્યારે એનો પહેલો જોબ કયો હતો કોઈને ખબર છે? કદાચ કોઈને ખબર નહીં હોય. એનો પહેલો જોબ હતો ટુ જોઈન ઇન્ડિયન આર્મી. 1963 ના અંદર એને એન્જિનિયરિંગ પૂરું કર્યું અને એ ટાઈમ પીરિયડ હતો દેશભક્તિનો. ચાઇનાની વોર હજી પૂરી થઈ હતી અને નહેરુએ બધાને કીધું કે જાગો, વતન તમને પુકારે છે. એ ટાઈમના અંદર કોલેજમાંથી નીકળીને એને પહેલું કામ આર્મી જોઈન કર્યું. આર્મી જોઈન કરીને એને શું કર્યું? છેલ્લે તો ખીચડી ખાવું, રાઈટ? એટલે એ પણ એને જોઈન કર્યું તો એટલા માટે કારણ કે he wanted to be part of Indian Army ના engineering corps. અને he became part of the engineering team કે જે ટીમે સૌથી પહેલો હાઈવે શ્રીનગર થી લડાખના અંદર લેહ સુધી કર્યો. he was part of that. એટલે એ મને વાત કરતા, અને એ મને એટલા માટે વાત કરતા કારણ કે હું બી સિવિલ એન્જિનિયર છું. એટલે કે મેં આ કર્યું. મેં કીધું તમને ડર ના લાગ્યો? તો કે હવે ડર તો શું લાગે, અને એટલે કે અમે તે નવરા હતા, જોબ તો હતો નહીં, તો જોડાઈ ગયા. અને જોડાઈ ગયા તો કે કઈ શીખવા બી મળ્યું, કઈ જાણવા મળ્યું, ટફ બી થયા. કે જે ઘરે ખીચડી ખાતા એમાંથી ઓલી આર્મીની મેસના અંદર જે રસોઈ હોય એ જમી પેટ ભરી અને આખો દિવસ -ડિગ્રીઓના અંદર તમે કામ કરતા રસ્તા ઉપર. એ આ કિશોરભાઈ છે. એટલે તમને કોઈને આ ખ્યાલ નહીં હોય. હવે એને ઓફકોર્સ આપણે બધાને એટલા વાલા લાગતા. મારે 2 દીકરીઓ છે, કવિતા અને નિકિતા. એ બંને જણા they were just crazy for him. અને તમે વિચાર કરો કારણ શું? એવું નહોતું કે દુનિયાભરના રમકડા લઈને છોકરાઓને આપતા કે કેન્ડીઓના ઢગલા કરીને છોકરાને આપતા ને નહીં. હકીકતના અંદર એ જે અંદરનો પ્રેમ હોય, જે પ્રેમ આપણે મોટા લોકો મેચ્યોર લોકો છે કોઈ દિવસ જોઈ નથી શકતા, પણ નાના છોકરાઓ તરત જ ઓળખી જાય કે ધીસ ઇઝ ધ રાઈટ પર્સન. આની જે મહેક છે એ સાચી છે. અમારી બંને દીકરીઓ એને હજી સુધી બી કિશોર માસા નહોતી કહેતી. એને હંમેશા કહેતા હતા તીતો માસા. કારણ કે મારી નાની દીકરી જ્યારે 2.5 વર્ષની હતી 97માં, ત્યારે અહીંયા ફ્લોરિડા આવી હતી. તો પહેલી વાર જ્યારે મળી અને બોલતા શીખતી હતી, હજી આવડતું હતું. કિશોર બોલવાનું તો બહુ ડિફિકલ્ટ હતું. તો એણે એને તીતો કહ્યું અને એ તીતો બધાને એટલું ગમી ગયું કે તીતો માસા જ થઈ ગયા. એટલે સુશી માસી બી અમને જ્યારે ફોન કરે તો કે તીતો તો આવું કે છે. એટલે આવી વાતો છે. આગળ વધીએ તો હજી ગઈકાલની જ વાત છે. મારી નાની દીકરી આવીને કીધું કે આપણા સુરેશભાઈની ગ્રાન્ડ ડોટર છે રિયા, એનો મને મેસેજ આવ્યો છે. મેં કીધું શું લખે? તો કે તમે વાંચો. મેં કીધું નો, તું તારે વાંચીને કહેશું. તો કે that uncle was a pillar of our community. હકીકતમાં લિટરલી he was the pillar. કારણ કે છેલ્લા 25 વર્ષમાં અહીંયા જેવીબીમાં જેટલું બી કામ થતું એનું હંમેશા મારી સાથે વાત કરીને કહેતા કે બકુલભાઈ આ પ્રોજેક્ટ કરીએ છે, શિબિર આ ટાઈમે છે, શિબિરમાં આવશે કે નહીં, શિબિરના અંદર આટલા આટલા લેક્ચરો છે, બધી વસ્તુઓ મારી સાથે કરતા. 7-8 વર્ષ પહેલા જે શમણીજી હતા એને હિન્દીમાં એક બુક લખી હતી, એને ઇંગ્લિશમાં ટ્રાન્સલેટ કરી હતી. તો મને એમને ખબર છે કે હું વિચારથી પાક્કો ગાંડિયો છું, બેસીને ધર્મ કરવું કે એવું કાંઈ નહીં. પણ એને ખબર હતી કે મને ઇંગ્લિશ આવડે છે અને મને કલ્ચર બી ખબર છે. તો મને કહે કે બકુલભાઈ તમે કે શમડીજી સાથે બેસીને તમે આ ટ્રાન્સલેશન પર કામ કરી શકો કે નહીં? મેં કહ્યું હું તો નવરો છું, રિટાયર થઈ ગયું, મને ક્યાં વાંધો નથી. તો એની સાથે મેં શમડીજી સાથે 3 થી 4 મહિના મેં કામ કરેલું. સો હી વોઝ ઇન્સ્ટ્રુમેન્ટલ ટુ બ્રિંગ મી ઇન. એને ખબર હતી કે કોણ શું કરી શકે અને કેટલું કરી શકે. આવા કિશોર માસા. હવે કિશોર માસા ચાલ્યા ગયા. મારી મોટી દીકરી કવિતા સાથે હું વાત કરતો, તો જેવી રીતે મીર અને આશીષ કહે છે, બધા એને ડિસ્ક્રાઇબ કરતા જેન્ટલમેન, જેન્ટલમેન, જેન્ટલમેન. એટલે મારી દીકરી મને કે માસા તો શું જેન્ટલમેન, જેન્ટલમેન નહીં એનાથી કંઈક વધારે. તો એ કે માસા ખરેખર ભગવાનના માણસ, ભગવાનના માણસ કે ભગવાનના ફરિશ્તા, ભગવાનને એને આપણા માટે મોકલાવ્યા એ આ ભગવાનના માણસ. અને હકીકતના અંદર એને છેલ્લી જે જિંદગી છે એ હકીકતના અંદર ફરિશ્તાની જેમ જ કાઢી. હું હમણાં સુરેશભાઈના સન સાથે વાત કરતો તો મને કીધું કે ગજબ છે, આટલું કામ અહીંયા કરે, આટલા આગળ પડતા હતા છતાં કોઈ સાથે માથાકૂટ નહીં, કોઈ સાથે ઝઘડા નહીં, કોઈ સાથે કોમ્પિટિશન નહીં, કોઈ ચર્ચા નહીં, કોઈની નિંદા નહીં કરવી. અરે આ બધું તો આપણું કામ નથી, એ તો બધું મહારાજ ને મા સતીઓ કરે. પણ એ કામ એ કરતા. સો આવા માસ હતા. અને ત્યારે હું વિચાર કરતો, મને ન્યૂઝ જ્યારે આવ્યા કે માસા ચાલ્યા ગયા છે, તો વિચાર કરતો હતો કે માસાને જો ખરેખર છેલ્લે જતા જતા આપણને બધા લોકોને કંઈક મેસેજ આપવો હોય કે કંઈક કહેવું હોય તો શું કહેશે? અને તરત જ મને એકદમ સ્ટ્રાઇક થયો કે યાર એ શું કહેશે મને ખબર છે. જેણે જૈનિઝમ ના અંદર આટલું ઉતરીને જિંદગી જો ખરેખર જીવી હોય તો જિંદગી જૈનિઝમના જે 2 મોટા પ્રિન્સિપલ અહિંસાથી એ જીવા કમ્પ્લીટલી, વેજીટેરિયન, કોઈને મન વચન કાયાથી બી કોઈને હાનિ કરવી નહીં, એ લાઈફ એને જીવ્યા. અને બીજો પ્રિન્સિપલ મિચ્છામી દુક્કડમ. બધા પાસે તમારો વાંક છે કે નહીં ખબર નથી, પણ બધા પાસે પહેલેથી માફી માંગી. આઈ એમ શ્યોર, મને એવું લાગે કે બધાને મિચ્છામી દુક્કડમ કહી અને વિદાય લીધી હશે. તો આજે આપણે ભેગા થયા છે તો એના મિચ્છામી દુક્કડમ આપણે બધા એક્સેપ્ટ કરીએ અને આપણે ભેગા મળી અને એને મિચ્છામી દુક્કડમ મોકલીએ. જય જિનેન્દ્ર.
Yajinendra. Thank you, Bakobai, for your beautiful words. Thank you all for being here with us today. When I was thinking this week about my dad, so many memories came to mind, so many thoughts came in my head. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to say today, one phrase kept coming into my head when I thought about my dad. And it's a question. He would say, "What time is it?" And the way he would say it is, "What time is it, Jilu?" Jilu is something that he would have called me all my life. Sometimes when he visited me in New Jersey, or my brother in Maryland, and sometimes when I was home in Florida visiting him. We'd be up late at night, watching TV, hanging out. Maybe my dad fell asleep. He'd wake up in the middle of the night and ask, "What time is it?" And the question is meaningful to me for two reasons. First of all, the name. Julie was the name only he called me from when I was very young until now. Even though I haven't lived at home for a long time, that special name from my childhood always stayed. And special is definitely the word I would use to describe my relationship with my dad. I'm the middle child in my family. I'm the only daughter in a big Indian family all over the US and back in India. But in my family, I was never taken for granted. My mom and my grandmother loved us all, my brothers and I, more than life itself. And I always knew that. But to my dad, I was special. Throughout my life, my dad never gave me any indication that I couldn't do anything what I wanted to do or be anything that I wanted to be. And that brings me to the second part of the question. What time is it? The concept of time and how precious it is. My dad understood this all his life until his last breath. That time was not to be wasted, but to be cherished. My dad used time wisely with his ongoing commitment to education and work and family. I learned from him that knowledge and education are more precious than possessions, and that time spent with loved ones is priceless. He supported me completely when I made the decision in college to change my career and pursue medicine, even when others thought it might be a long and difficult road. My dad taught me by example that commitment to one's profession is a treasure. As all of you know, my dad loved his work. He loved designing and building, interacting with his clients, and inspecting the completed project. To say he was a workaholic is definitely an understatement. When he was initially hospitalized in March of this year, when he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, I would say he probably worked daily until a couple weeks before he was hospitalized. My dad started as a professional engineer when he first came to the US in 1971. He worked for a company in Chicago before relocating to Florida, and then joined a group before starting his own company over 30 years ago. He took so much pride in that company, and it was such a big part of his life and who he was. For my dad, he truly lived the saying, "Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life." Beyond work, my dad taught me by example the importance of friends and family and all the people you love. My dad was the youngest son in a large family of all sons and one daughter, and he cherished his family. Again, it would be easy in a family that large, especially in the US, to just focus on his nuclear family and know the rest superficially. But Dad was just the opposite. He knew everybody and not superficially. For school and then for work, I've lived in many parts of the US. And once in a while, I would come across somebody with our last name, Tolia, which is not a common name in the US. So I would ask my dad, and he always knew who they were. I would say, "Dad, I met this somebody and their last name was Tolia." And say, "Oh yeah, that's so-and-so's son or so-and-so's daughter or cousin. He got married last year and they have a baby boy," and he would be right. My dad would not hesitate to travel across the country to welcome a new daughter-in-law to the family or celebrate the coming arrival of a new baby. He was equally selfless with his friends. He would go out of his way to help a friend who needed a ride to a doctor's appointment or who was feeling lonely after the loss of a family member. People always say one should lead by example, and in my dad's case, that was completely true. He was intelligent and funny, generous and kind, and loyal and loving, and he taught us all to be the same. If I could live up to the example he set for my brothers and I would be a much better person. He also taught by example the tenets of the Jain religion, to which he committed his life in service. Of course, the ideas of nonviolence and truth, but especially the principle of non-possessiveness. My dad showed me, by how he lived his life, the peace that can be had by letting go of attachments and being content in oneself. When my mom got sick and passed away over 15 years ago, initially my dad was lost. She was the love of his life and his partner and his best friend. They married young and grew up together in a new country and made a wonderful life for all of us. After she was gone, my dad found strength to carry on through the teachings of Jainism. And through the love of family and friends, he found his purpose again. All of you here are a big part of that. When my dad passed away in his sleep just 1 week ago, it came as a shock to my family. Even though we knew his prognosis was not good, I thought he had some more time left. And that showed me again how precious time really is. I'm grateful to all of you for your well wishes since the time he was diagnosed until the day he passed, and even now. The love and friendship that so many offered my family is immeasurable. You did for my dad what I couldn't do because I was far away. Whether it was Suresh uncle stopping by for a quick game of cards, or Mehul by bringing excellent food from home and cheering up my dad, you guys are all so appreciated. I can't name you all individually, but please know you gave him what he needed more than anything else, which was normalcy. When he was stuck at home and sick, and that gave me so much peace of mind. It really is fitting that we hold this program here today in this place, which was his second home. I want to end by thanking all of you who are here and all who are connecting from afar for being here and being there for my family always. We truly have a wonderful community of family and friends, and all of you are so appreciated and loved. We had to limit the numbers in this place today due to COVID, but so many of you have reached out from near and far, and for that we will always be so grateful. My dad can rest in peace because he knows we are taken care of. I'll miss talking to him on the phone when I'm driving back and forth from work, or his impromptu texts in the middle of the day to say hello. I'll miss his kind soul that kept our family together and strong even after my mom was gone. I think it will be a long time before I stop hearing his voice say, "What time is it due?" Thank you all, and Jai Jinendra.
And now we know a lot more about Kishore Kaka than what we knew before. Next, I would like to call upon Kamlesh Bhai, the co-founder and the former chairman of JVB, who has probably spent the last 2 or more decades with Kishore Kaka. Would like to say something.
आदरणीय समनी जी, भाइयों और बहनों, और जूम पर जो जुड़े हैं वो सब भाइयों बहनों को प्रणाम। 30 जुलाई को हमारे किशोर भाई हमसे विदा ले गए। क्रीमेशन के बाद जब हम बाहर निकले, हमारे अरविंद भाई नंदू ने कहा, I cannot believe that he is not with us anymore. We won't see him again. बहुत भावुक हो गए थे। लेकिन कहते हैं ना कि जो व्यक्ति, अभी आपने सुना वो अतुल भाई से, जील, आशीष, मिहिर, सबसे, और हम सब जानते हैं किशोर भाई सरल, भावुक, शांत स्वभाव वाले और लोकप्रिय थे। जहां पर भी कुछ भी काम होता वो हमेशा तत्पर रहते। मुझे तो बहुत ही उपयोगी बने, शुरुआत से लेकर पहले दिन से लेकर वो जुड़े हुए। जब ये देरासर ये सब जो हमने, वो उनकी इंजीनियरिंग स्किल और उनका जो लाइसेंस था उसके जरिए काफी कुछ काम बहुत ही सरल बना दिया उन्होंने। जहां पर भी जरूरत हुई बोले अरे छोड़ो उनको, मैं देखता हूँ सब ठीक है, साइन कर दूंगा, आप काम शुरू कर दो, आगे चलाओ। क्या बात है, हम लोग इतने भाग्यशाली हैं कि ऐसे एक व्यक्ति हमारे साथ जुड़े और अंत तक जुड़े रहे, पूरा सेवा और पूरा योगदान दिया उन्होंने। तो ये जेवीबी फैमिली के लिए एक बड़ा लॉस है, क्योंकि हम लोगों ने तो साथ में खाना खाया, स्वाध्याय भी किया और काफी कुछ मिले जुले और अच्छी तरह खेले। तो किशोर भाई को डायरेक्टर बने, अंत तक डायरेक्टर रहे, प्रेसिडेंट बने, 4 साल प्रेसिडेंट रहे। अगर कभी कह देते हैं भी आपको ये करना है, मुझे याद नहीं आज तक उन्होंने कभी मना किया। ऐसे बहुत कम लोग होते हैं कि समय आने पर आकर खड़े हो जाते हैं, पूछते भी नहीं, बस आकर खड़े हो गए। मैं जानता हूं आपको जरूरत रहेगी, कहना पड़ेगा। उनको हम सब लोग काकू बुलाते थे। हमारे दीपक भाई तलाटी ने वो नाम दिया था, काकू। और पता नहीं इतना सबको पसंद आया, सब उनको काकू बुलाने लगे। पिछले 8-10 साल से काकू बुलाते थे और सबको प्यारे थे, क्योंकि सरल, भावुक, शांत और लोकप्रिय थे। 82 साल की उम्र में उन्होंने हम सबसे विदा ली, लेकिन हमेशा कोई भी प्रोग्राम हमने प्लान किया हो, किशोर भाई हमेशा वहां पर आते। अगर और कोई तकलीफ नहीं तो वो हमेशा रहे। सुबह देखे वो भक्तावर में 7:30 बजे हाजिर हो जाते। बिंदुबेन को भी साथ में लेके आते, उनको भी लाभ मिलता। तो कहने का मतलब कि जहां पर भी कुछ भी करना है, हमारे किशोर भाई तैयार है। फिर उनका इतना शांत और सरल स्वभाव था। हमारे ये विपिन भाई, मीनाबेन ने भी उनका काफी ख्याल रखा। भक्तावर में आते थे, कुछ न कुछ लेकर आते थे। मेरी जो बातें हैं ये किशोर भाई के गुण तो हम जानते हैं। लोगों ने क्या किया, उन्होंने लोगों के लिए क्या किया, जब देखता हूं तो वाह। कुछ भी मेंटेनेंस का काम हो, छत का काम करना है, लाइट की है, बाहर की लाइट है, जो भी कुछ काम करना हो, कभी भी हम सब में से 2 आदमी को हम बोलते, या अशोक भाई या किशोर भाई, पूछते क्या करें, कैसे करेंगे, आप छोड़ दो, हम लोग देख लेंगे, हो गया। मुझे तो कुछ काम करने दिया ही नहीं, लोग बहुत ही काम खुद कर रहे हैं। और ये भी एक अनुभव होता है कि कहते हैं कि हम चलाते हैं, लेकिन चलाने वाले पीछे सब खड़े हैं। और इतने भाव से उन्होंने काम किया, बहुत ही अच्छा लगा। और सबने उनका भी साथ दिया। एक दिन सुबह दर्श भाई देसाई हमारे, उनको फोन आया शायद जिल का कि उनको कुछ तकलीफ है, उनको हॉस्पिटल ले जाना पड़ेगा। बस हो गया, कुछ सब कुछ काम धाम छोड़कर वो निकल गए और उनको इमरजेंसी ले गए। दोपहर शाम तक वहां पर रहे। डेडिकेशन के सामने इतना डेडिकेशन मिलता है, शुरुआत तो करनी पड़ती है। तो किशोर भाई ने बहुत ही अच्छे से ये सब निभाया था। अब देखें तो उन्होंने जैन तत्व ज्ञान में काफी रुचि ली। हम सबने काफी स्वाध्याय किया, स्वामी जी के साथ बहुत ही स्वाध्याय किया पिछले 20-25 सालों में। तो उन्होंने जैन दर्शन को अच्छे से समझा था और ऐसा समझा था कि उनको मृत्यु का डर बहुत कम हो गया, मानो कि था ही। एक दिन हॉस्पिटल में मैं बैठा था, मैं बोला क्या कर रहे हो? बोले बस चलता है। मैंने लोगों सूत्र को रिकॉर्ड करके दे दिया, तो सुना करो। बोलते हैं अरे कमलेश भाई, अब तो मुझे डर ही नहीं, आज का दिन है, कल का दिन है, 2 साल और है, कोई बात, सब ठीक है, मैं तैयार हूं। अब जब इतना पेन हो रहा है, इतनी दवाइयां हो रही है, शरीर जवाब दे रहा है, और अगर ये तैयारी है, इसको क्या कहेंगे, बहुत ही अच्छी समझ जैन दर्शन की। सिर्फ बातें करने के लिए नहीं, जीने के लिए उनके पास थी, और ये सबसे बड़ी बात है। बाकी तो हमारे जैन विश्व भारती फैमिली के सभी मेंबर, हमारे विजय भाई प्रमिला बहन लंच लेकर पहुंच जाते, हमारे मनोज भाई, मतलब कि कितनों के नाम लूं मैं, पूरा फैमिली जैन विश्व भारती का जब भी जरूरत है पहुंच जाते। हमारे सुरेश भाई दादा दादी हमेशा पहुंच जाते थे। उनको कंपनी कोविड के 1 साल तक दीपक भाई तलाटी ने अपने घर से हर संडे को बुलाया उनको, आओ कुछ एक्टिविटी करेंगे, करते रहे। तो ये ऐसा फैमिली 25 सालों से हम लोग साथ में हैं, और एक आनंद होता है। अब किशोर भाई नहीं रहे, दुख भी होता है, लेकिन वो अच्छा जीवन जिए तो वो भी एक आनंद की बात है। तो सरल शांत भावुक स्वभाव वाले हमारे लोकप्रिय किशोर भाई को पूरे जेवीबी फैमिली के तरफ से श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करते हैं। और एक भावना हमारी ये रहेगी, इतना स्वाध्याय करते, इतनी समझ थी उनकी जैन दर्शन की, अच्छी सद्गति हुई होगी, और हम आशा रखते हैं कि आने वाले समय में साधना करके अपना मोक्ष मार्ग प्रशस्त करेंगे। बस यही भावना के साथ जय जिने।
Thank you, Kamlesh. Yeah, it's definitely a very big loss for our JVB family. Next, I would like to say the message from none other than Acharya Shri Mahasraman ji himself. आचार्य श्री महाश्रमण जी अगर मैसेज भेजते हैं, आप सोच सकते हैं कि इनका कितना महत्व रहा होगा जेवीबी ऑरलैंडो में और ये संस्था के साथ। और हम जन्म लेने वाला प्राणी एक दिन अवसान को प्राप्त होता ही है, यह दुनिया की नियति है, कोई भी प्राणी इसका अपवाद नहीं है। ज्ञात हुआ है कि श्री किशोर भाई तोलिया का देहावसान हो गया। वे जैन विश्व भारती ऑरलैंडो से गहराई से जुड़े हुए थे। वहां समणी वृंद का सेंटर भी रहता आया है। इस समय किशोर भाई के सभी पारिवारिक व संबंधी जन धैर्य और मनोबल रखे तथा नमस्कार महामंत्र आदि के जप के द्वारा आध्यात्मिक माहौल निर्मित करने का प्रयत्न करें। आचार्य श्री महासमान। Next, I would like to request Devang Bhai, Chairman of JVB, a few words. Adharaniya Shamni ji, a lot of people have said a lot of things about Kishorebhai, and I would not like to repeat, but we all feel it. And at the end, I just want to wish and tell him thank you for what he has done for us. आदरणीय शमनी जी से निवेदन करूंगा कि
विप्राप्य प्रणाम, आराध्य को प्रणाम, आदरणीय जी, हमारा किशोरभाई टोलिया का पूरा परिवार, बंधु, एक ऐसी पुस्तक के बारे में आज चिंतन कर रहे हैं, जो पुस्तक हमेशा खुली रहेगी, जिनका हर पन्ना हमेशा जीवन का बोलता रहा, और वह किशोरभाई टोलिया। मैं बहुत लंबे समय से नहीं जानती, सिर्फ लगभग 28 साल का काल रहा, और उसमें मैंने उनको करीबी से देखा और एक साल की उच्च कोटि के रूप में देखा। मैंने उस व्यक्ति को इस रूप में देखा। इंडिया में स्काउट होती है, वो बहुत कुछ करते हैं, लेकिन इस जमीन पर रहने वाला स्काउट और कितनी भावना हम लोगों की करती है। अगर हमारे आसपास से कहीं से गुजरते तो मुझे कभी याद नहीं कि 5-6 महीने छोड़ दीजिए, उससे पहले उन्होंने कौन नहीं किया हो, सभी की नजर से गुजर रहा हूं। आपको दूध चाहिए, आपको कोकोनट वाटर चाहिए, आपको कुछ फूड चाहिए, आपको कोई चीज की जरूरत है दूसरी, मैं लेके आता हूँ। मैं कभी कभी कहती किशोरभाई, आप क्यों फोन किया करो, ऐसे भी बातें लेके आते हैं ना, समझ कहाँ मेरे गोची बनाने का सौभाग्य मिलता नहीं है, तो मैं ये सब चीज तो कर ही सकता हूँ। यानी उनके मन में कितनी भावना मैं सोच नहीं सकती। यानी समृद्धि की छोटी से छोटी चीज लेकर के बड़ी से बड़ी चीज के लिए वो हर समय तैयार रहते हैं। जेबी के क्या किया, बहुत जो फर्स्ट दिन से जुड़ा व्यक्ति था, उन्होंने सब कुछ किया। एट लास्ट जब वो मार्च के महीने में कई बार आते थे इधर, यहाँ पर किसी के दिखाने के लिए, तो मैं कई बार मैं बोला प्रयास कमजोर लगने लगते हो, स्वास्थ्य ठीक है ना आपका, नहीं सब चीज बस ठीक है, थोड़ा सा मेरा बैठ में चल रहा है, सब ठीक। हमेशा यही कहा। उस दौरान 3-4 बार आए थे, तो मैंने हमेशा कहा इसको प्रयास करा, रखो, कमजोर रखो, स्वास्थ्य का थोड़ा सा ध्यान दो आप। फिर समझिए मेरे ठीक है, ऐसी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बस थोड़ा सा दर्द रहता है, और कुछ नहीं लगता मुझे। इतनी क्षमता मैं कल पढ़ रही थी, तो वहां पर मुझे जब मैंने उसको पढ़ा तो मुझे लगा कि किशोरभाई के लिए ये बातें बिल्कुल राइट है। स्थानांतरण में आया है, 10वीं आने जीवा आगमनी से भद्रताए क्रमम पकड़े कि जीव जो है 10 स्थानों से भावी कल्याणकारी कर्म करता है। समझ में आई बात? अपने जीवन में अच्छे कर्म करता है 10 स्थानों से। उनमें पहला स्थान है यानी वो जो कुछ भी करते थे, चाहे वो सामायिक प्रयत्न, साधना, तपस्या भी करते थे, उपवास करते, पोषण भी करते थे, कितना मुश्किल होता था, उन्होंने कभी बेचा नहीं, निदान नहीं किया कि मेरी तपस्या से कोई फल मिले तो मुझे ये मिल जाए। ऐसा व्यक्ति जो होता है भक्त कर्म करता है, अच्छी कल्याणकारी कर्म करता है। दूसरी बात, दृष्टि संपन्नता, दृष्टि संपन्नता, जो व्यक्ति दृष्टि संपन्न होता है, यानी हमने ये देखा किशोर भाई के जीवन में कभी हमने ऐसा नहीं देखा कि दृष्टिकोण में कोई अंतर आ रहा है क्या, किसी के बारे में दृष्टिकोण नहीं देखा, हमेशा सम्यक दृष्टिकोण उनका रहा। तो ऐसा लगता था समय होगा, लेकिन उनका अपना स्थिर था, वो अपने स्थिर थे, यानी इतना उनका दृष्टि संपन्नता थी। तो वो ऐसा व्यक्ति जो होता है, वह व्यक्ति अच्छे कर्मों को करने वाला होता है। तीसरी बात कही, योग ग्राहिकता, वो तो आप सबने अभी उनके जीवन पर देखा, वो सब योग में रहते थे, समता में रहते थे, इतनी वेदना की न गई। हम दोनों एक दादा के साथ में थे, किशोर भाई को मुझे झेलनी होनी थी और हाँ, तो हमने देखा वेदना थी, लेकिन समता इतनी, मैंने पूछा कोई दर्द होता है, कुछ लगता है, तो मेरे शरीर में है, ये जिंदन है, आत्मा की वेदना नहीं है, होती तो शरीर में ही है, लेकिन आदमी कहाँ ले जाता है, सारा दिन उसी में जीता है, वो मेरे ये दर्द है, ये वेदना है, मेरा ये नहीं हुआ, मेरा वो नहीं हुआ। कितनी क्षमता, खाने की, पीने की, रहने की कितनी क्षमता थी। एक उदाहरण, तो योग भगवता, यानी जो समाधि योग में जीते थे, तो समाधि योग का मतलब ये नहीं होता है कि जाकर के गुफा में समाधि ले लेना। समाधि योग का मतलब है अपने आप में समाधि कर रहना। कभी उनको उत्तेजना आवे हमने नहीं देखा, कभी ऊंचा स्वर ही नहीं सुना, ऊंचा स्वर भी नहीं सुना उनका कभी। तो योग रहता, जो व्यक्ति समाधि योग में जीता है, वह अच्छे कर्मों का उपार्जन करता है। फोर्थ नंबर का है खंती मनताय, यानी शांति क्षमता, कितनी क्षमा में हर चीज को सहन करने की एक कहते हैं पराकाष्ठा में कितनी क्षमता है। तो वो समर्थ होते हुए भी, यानी ऐसा नहीं कर कई बार लोग सोचते हैं कि क्षमावान या तो एक फायर का जैसा है, नहीं, समर्थ होने पर ही जो क्षमा करता है वही बड़ा होता है। तो उनमें वो भी था। फिफ्थ नंबर है जितेंद्रियता, यानी जितेंद्रियता, इंद्रियों का संयम। आप सब जानते हैं छोटी उम्र में भाव शांत हो गया, और उसके बाद हम जानते हैं कि पत्नी का चला जाना और घर की बहुत थोड़ी सी अस्तव्यस्तता लगने लग जाती है, फिर भी इतनी क्षमता में रहते हैं। उन्होंने अपने आप पर कंट्रोल, लास्ट तक मैंने कहा भी था, किशोर भाई आपका स्वास्थ्य थोड़ा ऐसा लगता है, हम गए थे तब क्यों नहीं किसी यहाँ पर बहन की व्यवस्था करवा ले कि आपकी व्यवस्था ठीक से हो जाएगी, डॉक्टर जाना ही पड़ता है, आशीष भी आता है उसको जाना ही पड़ता है, तो क्यों नहीं कुछ ऐसी व्यवस्था करवा ली जाए। नहीं, सबने यानी इतना उनका था संयम बहुत बड़ा। ऐ माया ऐ माई लताए जो माया नहीं करता है। हमारी नजर में पता नहीं, मैं निश्चित रूप से नहीं जान सकता, पर हमने अपनी नजर में कभी नहीं देखा कि उन्होंने कभी कोई माया वाला काम किया गया और कैसे करते, क्योंकि उनको बड़ा सील था, बोलते भी ऐसे एक सीमा में बोलते थे, कोई भी बात करनी तो एक सीमा के साथ करते थे हर चीज को। तो लगा नहीं कभी कि वो अपने जीवन में कोई बहुत माया का वाला ऐसा कोई काम करके नहीं गया। तो वो व्यक्ति ऐसा होता है वो अच्छी कर्मों का उपार्जन करता है। सुपार्श्वता यानी अपार्श्वता कहने का मतलब है कि जो व्यक्ति ज्ञान दर्शन और चारित्र में अपने आप को स्थिर करता है। किशोर भाई एक श्रावक थे, श्रावक के नाते वो उसमें स्थिर थे, अपने ज्ञान में, दर्शन में और चारित्र में वो स्थिर थे। तो वह व्यक्ति अच्छे कर्मों का उपार्जन करता है। 8वां नंबर है सुसामान्यताएं। सुसामान्य का पालन करे। उन्हें चारित्र तो नहीं आया, लेकिन उनके भाव ऐसा कभी कभी हमें भी आएगा। चारित्र नहीं आया, लेकिन एक भाव रहता है। पर एक भाई से बात हो रही थी कि सभी हम भी सोचते कभी हमारा भी ऐसे बात है, ऐसा समय आएगा कि हम भी चारित्र लेंगे। उनकी बहुत अच्छी सोच है, ऐसी भी सोच होनी चाहिए सबकी। तो उनका वो चारित्र तो नहीं आया, लेकिन उनके मन में था कि कभी श्रावक का एक गुण है कि वह ये चिंतन करे, वो दिन आएगा जब मैं सारे पवित्र को छोड़ करके साधु बनूंगा। तो ऐसा उनका भाव था। 9वां था पवेन वत्सलताएं, प्रवचन वात्सल्य। ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण मैंने स्टार्टिंग में कहा कि उनको जैन धर्म के प्रति जो गहरी श्रद्धा थी और साधु साधु के प्रति जो उनका भाव था, जो सेवा का भाव था, ये प्रवचन वत्सलता यानी अपनी प्रभावना करना, ये सबसे बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण गुण होता है एक श्रावक का कि किस तरह से वो प्रवचन की। और जैन भारती के साथ जितने भी सब लोग जुड़े हुए हैं, सबने क्या काम किए हैं? प्रवचन वाचन में क्या काम किया? जिन शासन की प्रभावना का एक काम किया है, उसकी वो शुरू से पहले दिन से लगे हुए थे। तो उन्होंने अपने जीवन में किया। और लास्ट जो है भावन लाए, प्रवचन की भावन का यानी वो जहां भी अवसर मिलता लोगों के साथ जिन शासन की चर्चा करना, हमारे साथ किया कभी बैठते तो यही बस धर्म की चर्चा की सिवाय उनका कोई और विषय नहीं होता था। कोई दूसरी बात नहीं करते थे, होते थे दूसरी भी बात कर लेते, लेकिन वो कभी नहीं करते थे। उनकी एक ही बात थी, बस समझिए कि ये सब अच्छा होता रहे, आपके साथ नाची चलिए ना, हम शासन की प्रभावना करते रहेंगे। तो उनके मन में जो भाव था वो बहुत उच्च कोटि का भाव था, वो आत्मा। हाँ, तो मेहुल भाई तो कई बार कहते कि किशोर काका कि किशोर काका ने ही मुझे यहाँ पर दिया, मुझे लेकर आने वाली वही व्यक्ति है। और मुझे कितना आप सोचिए, एक व्यक्ति को भी हम धर्म के साथ जोड़ते हैं तो कितना बड़ा लाभ होता है, कितनी बड़ी निर्जा होती है। खुद के करने से ज्यादा निर्जा होती है क्योंकि दूसरे व्यक्ति के जीवन को आपके एक दिशा दी। तो ये सबसे बड़ा काम है। और यहाँ पर जिन्होंने भी ये काम किया, जिन भारती को बनाने, जिन लोगों का जो योगदान रहा है एक एक व्यक्ति का, उन्होंने ये अपूर्व काम किया है। क्योंकि जिन शासन की प्रभावना करने वाला है, व्यक्ति आएगा चला जाएगा, लेकिन वह जो कुछ करके जाएगा उसकी सुवास रहेगी। बैठा हुआ था साधक अपनी साधना में मस्त था। अचानक एक फरिश्ता आ गया और बोला कि कुछ मांगो। देव हूँ, कुछ मांगो। उसने कहा मुझे तो कुछ नहीं चाहिए। अरे कुछ तो मांगो। अरे भाई कुछ नहीं चाहिए। अरे भाई देव दर्शन खाली नहीं जाते, कुछ तो मांगो। कि नहीं मुझे तो कुछ नहीं चाहिए। उसने कहा कुछ तो मांगना होगा, देव दर्शन खाली नहीं चाहिए। तो ऐसा तो आंगन के गुलाब का पौधा लगा। अरे ये क्या था? गुलाब का पौधा कुछ और मांगते कि नहीं, क्योंकि तुमने क्यों मांगा? इसलिए मांगा कि गुलाब खिलता है और शाम तक मूर्छा करके झड़ भी जाता है, लेकिन उसके बीच में एक सुवास होती है जो शुरू से लेकर वो झड़ जाने के बाद भी वो सबके बीच में फैलती रहती है। जन्म होता है, मृत्यु भी निश्चित है। जन्म और मृत्यु दोनों निश्चित है, लेकिन इसके बीच में जीवन होता है। तो वह जीवन ये बताता है कि उसने कैसा जीवन किया। वह अपने गुणों की सुवास चारों ओर फैला करके जाता है। किशोर भाई आज उस पार्थिव देह के साथ हमारे बीच में नहीं रहे, लेकिन उनके गुण इस जैन विश्व भारती कण में परिवार के हर सदस्य के भीतर मौजूद हैं। वो हमसे दूर नहीं गए हैं, वो हमसे दूर नहीं है, हमारे यही बीच में है। बस पहचानने की जरूरत है, उन गुणों को जीने की जरूरत है। मैं आशीष, झील और नीरज से कहना चाहूंगी कि किशोर भाई की जो गुण है वो आपको जेनेटिक मिलेगी। उनको बस आपको जगाने की जरूरत है। आज वो नहीं रहे, परम देव ने यही लिखा है कि पूरा परिवार जो है वो सारे सदस्यों के बीच में ये सारे गुण हैं, वो आप विकसित करें। और जिस शासन की प्रभावना में जैसा किशोर भाई ने काम किया है, वैसा आप लोग भी संकल्प करें कि हम जिन शासन की प्रभावना के लिए जो कुछ हमसे बन पड़ेगा, हम अपने जीवन में करेंगे, अवश्य करेंगे। क्योंकि मुझे याद है सुशील बहन को मैंने देखा नहीं, लेकिन एक दिन जब एल्बम देख रहे थे सुषमा जी, मोनिका, तो बोले ये सुषमा जो कभी हमें दिखाते तो फोटोग्राफ हमें दिखाए। और उनका आज एक व्यक्ति याद करता है, उनको भी याद करता है। आज वो कितने सालों से हमारे बीच में नहीं है, लेकिन सब याद करते हैं। वैसे ही किशोर भाई को सब याद करते रहेंगे तो ये विश्व भारती रहेगी, तब तक कोई नहीं दिख सकता। कोई जिन्होंने उनको देखा है, उनके साथ रहा है, कोई भी उनको नहीं दिख सकता। तो ऐसे जो व्यक्ति हैं वो कभी हमारे बीच से अलविदा होते नहीं है। हम इस देश शरीर को कह देते हैं, पार्थिव शरीर को अलविदा हो गए, लेकिन वो आत्मा हमेशा जागृत रहती है सबके बीच में, उनके गुणों को याद करते रहते हैं। तो ऐसी आत्मा जहां भी रहेगी, वो जहां भी है, हम ये मंगल कामना करते हैं वह उत्तरोत्तर आध्यात्मिक विकास करते रहे और अपने लक्षित मंजिल पर जैसी दृष्टि यहाँ पर टिकी वैसी दृष्टि उनकी बनी रहे और अपनी उस लक्षित मंजिल को शीघ्र प्राप्त करें। ऐसी मंगल कामना करती हूँ। और मैं फिर से एक बार कहना चाहूंगी, झील को, आशीष और नीरज को आपने सेवा की है, जरूर लगेगा आपको, पर ये नियति है, हम इसे टाल नहीं सकते। इसे हमें समझना है और उनके गुणों को अपने भीतर में उजागर करना है। और ये संकल्प करना है आज के दिन से कि हम कम से कम 5 मिनट बैठ करके नवकार मंत्र का अनुष्ठान करेंगे। 5 मिनट तो मिलते हैं ना सबको, 5 मिनट बैठ करके शांति के साथ भगवान मंत्र का अनुष्ठान करें और ये संकल्प करें कि हमें भी अवसर मिले तो हम जिस शासन की सेवा करेंगे। ओम अरहम ओम अरहम और इसका ध्यान सावधान आखिर दोनों विदरे धम्मदित्वयरे यजिने अरहन्ते कित्तविस्सं चोपि संकेवले उसगमजियं च वन्दे संभवमगिनन्तरं च सुमयं च ॐ सुवासं जिनच्युचन्तत्वं वन्दे सुविगिं च पुष्पदन्तं श्रीमदसिद्धन्तवासुभुजं च विमलमनन्तं च चिरं दन्तिं च वन्दामि कुङ्कुमरं च मल्लिं वन्दे मुनिसुब्बरत्नमिचिरं च वन्दामि रिक्तनेमिं वासन्तः गद्गमानं च एवं मयेयर्मा विद्यराय मला कहीं झरना चौबीस संकीर्तना तिथयरा में पसियंत कित्तिय बंदिय गए जे लोग उत्तम सिद्धा आरुक्त विदाहम समाभिवरमुत्तमं गिन्तु चन्दे सुनिम्मनयरा आयिच्चे द्वहितं पयासयरा सागरवरगम्भीरा सिद्धा सिद्धिं ममि सन्तु सिद्धा सिद्धिं ममि सन्तु। और एक बात मैं कहना मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा किशोर भाई बीमार थे पूरे जेबीपी के लोग हमेशा यही कहते हैं कि हमारा सेकंड होम है और सब एक परिवार की तरह रहते हैं और सब ने जैसा ही काम किया। किशोर भाई जब बीमार थे तो कोई भी किसी को भी कहो एनी टाइम रेडी, कोई भी किसी को भी बोला तुरंत जाने के लिए रेडी। तो बहुत अच्छा परिचय दिया और ऐसा ही बना रहे, सबका भाव ऐसा ही सबके प्रति बना रहे, क्योंकि आप दुनिया में फैमिली से दूर आ गए हैं तो सब सिंगल होने के कारण आप सभी परिवार हैं। यही साधारणता होती है कि हम सब एक हैं। जैन इसका मतलब हम सब एक हैं और ये साधारणता आप सबकी बनी रहे। मंगल कामना करती हूँ। ओम अरहम मंगल पाठ चत्तारि मंगलम अरहंता मंगलम सिद्धा मंगलम साहु मंगलम केवली पन्नतो धम्मो मंगलम चत्तारि लोकोत्तमा अरहंता लोकोत्तमा सिद्धा लोकोत्तमा साहु लोकोत्तमा केवली पन्नतो धम्मो लोकोत्तमो चत्तारि शरणं पवज्जामि अरहन्ते शरणं पवज्जामि सिद्धे शरणं पवज्जामि साहु शरणं पवज्जामि केवली पन्नतं धम्मं शरणं पवज्जामि विघ्नहरण करण स्वामी शुभमना गुणोदक समरणिया
वंदामि नमः वंदामी नमस्वामी समणी जी।
वंदामी नमस्वामी समणी जी।
वंदामी नमस्वामी समणी जी।
वंदामि नमस्सामि समणी जी।
वंदामि नमस्वामी।
वंदामि नमस्वामी समनी जी।
वंदामि नमस्सामि समणी जी।
वंदामी नमस्वामी समणी जी।
समीर भाई दादा
वंदामि नमस्वामी समनी जी।
वंदामि नमस्वामी समनी जी। ललिता जी मीना जी
वंदामि नमस्वामी जी।
माला जी
वंदामि नमस्वामी समणी जी सुखसाता में।
वंदामि नमस्वामी समनी जी।
वंदामि नमस्वामी।
वंदामि नमस्वामी समनी जी।
वंदामि नमस्वामी समणी साता में है। सुखसाता में।
Hi everyone. I don't know if they can hear us. You can hear us. How do we unmute ourselves?
Hi Jill.
Hi. Hi. How are you, Brother Auntie? Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here.
Hi Jill. Hi.
Mina Auntie. Hi, Mina Auntie.
Hi
Muted. Thank you guys. Thank you all for being on. Oh my gosh. Thank you all for writing in your messages. We appreciate it. Auntie, thank you. Thank you.
Jai Jinendra. Jai Jinendra.
Oh, very good, very good. Oh, forget the pen.
अरविंद भाई ने ठान ली है जेबीपी में किशोर भाई का स्थान लेंगे अभी। सेवा सेवा है नहीं है समणी जी।
एज बढ़ रही है ना जाने के जामू
समणी जी संदेना और संदेना तो स्वाध्याय છે હા પછી મંડે આવશે મંડે કે જાવ મનોજ ભાઈ ને કહે જવાના છે સંદેના મંડે પછી ક્યારે
आपका आशीष